Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah al-aliyyil azim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Allahumma akhrijni min dhulumat al-wahm wa akrimni bi nur al-fahm. Allahumma aftah alayna abwaba rahmatik wa anshur alayna khazana ulumik bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. I am grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us opportunity to start our second session, and I hope inshallah everyone who is watching this series would watch it carefully from the beginning to the end, because inshallah we are going to have a holistic review of major ideas of the school of Ahlul Bayt by a great contemporary scholar who had a special gift for education, whether it be in his teaching or in his writing, and that is the late Sheikh Muzaffar. Last night we talked about the first point, the first article, which was about our belief about the necessity of inquiring about religion and ma'rifah. Tonight, inshallah, we will have two articles because they are shorter and they are very much connected. Number two, عقيدتنا في التقليد بالفروع. What is our opinion about following a scholar, a marja, in furu', not usul, not in the principles of religion, rather about the practical rulings of religion. So it's like a branch which comes from that root. So amma furu'ud-din, and he explains what we mean by furu'ud-din. وهي أحكام الشرعية المتعلقة بالأعمال, the religious rulings which relate to our actions, like tahara, like salat, zakat, fasting, kitab, how to buy, how to sell, marriage, divorce, hajj. For every action that we do, there is certainly a ruling. It's either wajib or haram or makruh or mubah or mustahab, because it is either neutral or one side is preferred. If the action is preferred, then it is either possible not to do it, then it becomes mustahab. The action is preferred, but you can also fail. You can omit, you don't do it. But if you must do it, then it becomes wajib. If not doing is preferred, then if you still can do it, it's makruh. If you must not do it, it's haram. So everything, when it comes to our voluntary actions, is one of these five. So we need guidance. This guidance is given in Sharia. But are you supposed to become yourself an expert, to become a person who has a scholarly opinion? If you can, of course, it's very good. But are you supposed to become mujtahid? Is every person required to become a jurist? The answer is no. You have three options. You can become yourself a mujtahid. And if you yourself become mujtahid, you don't need to be a'lam, because you have opinion and you are sure about your opinion, even if you are not a'lam, but in particular issues, you have your opinion and say, this is what Allah says, this is what Islam says. So you don't need to be a'lam if you are yourself mujtahid. Or you do ijtihaad. In every mas'ala, you go for the most difficult choice. Or you follow a person who has dedicated his life to learning and is known for his taqwa. And in order to make sure that we don't take any risk, we go for the most knowledgeable. Although there have been some mujtahideen, some fuqaha, some jurists who said it's not necessary to do taqlid of a'lam. Taqlid of any mujtahid is okay when it is coming with taqwa. But the majority say it has to be a'lam, and we also rationally, in order to be on the safe side, we have to go for a'lam, because we don't want to take risk and then follow someone who is not a'lam, and on the day of judgment Allah says, why you did it in this way, while there was a person who was more knowledgeable. So you have three choices: either to become mujtahid, or to do ijtihaad, or do taqlid. When you look at it, you realize that actually taqlid is a facility. If taqlid was not permissible, then everyone had to become mujtahid or always does ijtihaad. And ijtihaad is not easy. First of all, ijtihaad in many issues need knowledge to understand the opinions, the views, and which one is the most, reliable and is on the safe side. Ijtihaad needs knowledge, but also it's difficult. And everyone cannot, go to Hose, and even if they go to Hose, it's not that everyone can become mujtahid. So it's a facility, it's a kind of help and assistance that Islam says you can do taqlid. This is why in the hadith of Imam Hassan al-Askari, in his tafsir, the tafsir which is attributed of course to Imam Hassan al-Askari, Imam alayhi salam is quoted as saying, أَمَّا مَنْ كَانَ مِنَ الْفُقَهَاءِ صَائِنًا لِنَفْسِهِ حَافِظًا لِدِينِهِ مُخَالِفًا لِهَوَاهُ وَمُخَالِفًا عَلَى هَوَاهُ مُطِيعًا لَأَمْرِ مَوْلَاهُ فَلِلْعَوَامِ أَنْ يُقَلِّدُوا, not عَلَى الْعَوَامِ أَنْ يُقَلِّدُوا. Some people say, why it doesn't say عَلَى الْعَوَامِ? We say because they have other options. لِلْعَوَامِ, this is for their benefit that they can do taqlid. We have to be thankful that Islam gives us the option of taqlid, and we have to be grateful to our marja that on behalf of all of us, they take all the trouble of studying, finding out opinion about every masala. Many of these masala are not applicable to them, but in order to help us, they spend lots of time in studying, in developing scholarly opinion. They answer to our istiftaad. Marja who have lots of followers, every day maybe thousands of questions go to them, and then they need help of some other scholars to help them. Those answers, questions which are already answered, the office can give the answer, the scholars who are there. But then there are many new issues that marja has to investigate, check again our sources. It's a very difficult task. We have to be grateful to them that they have undertaken this responsibility. So let us see what Sheikh Muzaffar says. أما فروع الدين وهي أحكام الشريعة المتعلقة بالأعمال فلا يجب فيها النظر والاجتهاد. With respect to the فروع الدين, which are the practical rulings of Sharia about actions, there is no need that every person inquires and exercises ijtihad. What is ijtihad? We will explain inshallah in the next one. But briefly, ijtihad means that you are a scholar, you go back fresh to the sources that we have, to the Quran and Sunnah and Aql and Ijma', and come up with a reliable opinion, with a scholarly opinion, with a methodic opinion. Not that, you just say, I think like this, I feel like this, I do istikhara and say this. No. You have to have a scholarly opinion, and you have to be answerable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there is no need for every person to inquire directly. Yes, they can ask their marja, There is no need for ijtihad for every person. بل يجب فيها, but what is necessary is one of the three. But of course, if it is something which is obvious, is one of the zaruriyat, as we say, is one of those things which are obvious and everyone knows, then you don't need to do taqlid or ijtihad about those things which are not obvious. For example, is salat wajib or not? Everyone knows salat is wajib. So about necessity of salat, we don't need to do taqlid or ijtihad. Is in Islam fasting in the months of Ramadan wajib or not? This issue by itself is zaruri, is self-evident, it's obvious. Even non-Muslims know that. Is hijab wajib or not? Everyone knows that. Maybe conditions, maybe details for salat, for fasting, for hijab. Yes, we need to either do ijtihad or taqlid or ihtiyat. But those things which are zaruri, no. So, he says, if it is not one of those things which are obviously known in religion, like obligation of salat and fasting and zakat, one of the three things is necessary. إما أن يجتهد وينظر في أدلة الأحكام. The first option is that this person himself becomes mujtahid, exercises ijtihad, looks into the references and resources for rulings. إذا كان أهلا لذلك, if he is qualified for that. Number two, وإما أن يحتاط في أعماله إذا كان يسعه الاحتياط. If ihtiyat is possible for him, he has the knowledge and ability to do ihtiyat, the second option is to do ihtiyat. Always to be going for precaution, going for the most difficult option that would give him chance to be on the safe side. Number three, the third option, وإما أن يقلد المجتهد الجامع للشرائط. The third option is to follow a mujtahid who is qualified. From every aspect, he is qualified. بأن يكون من يقلده. In the sense that he would be following someone, بأن يكون من يقلده عاقلا, he should follow someone who is intelligent, عادلا, who is just, doesn't commit any sin, صائنا لنفسه, a person who safeguards his nafs, doesn't let his soul bring him temptations, take him to the wrong actions, wrong decisions. حافظا لدينه, a person who is safeguarding his faith. مخالفا لهوى or مخالفا على هوى, according to some version, a person who disagrees and refrains from following his lower desires. And last, مطيعا لأمر مولاه, is obedient to the command of his master. He can follow such a person. Now, question. This is a question that you have in the beginning of Risale. Practical rulings, manuals, we have this question. If someone is not mujtahid and doesn't do ihtiyat and just acts, he makes wuzu as he has heard from here up there, makes salat as he has heard, something he has heard in childhood from, I don't know, parents, something in the school, something madrasa, he has mixed up, he doesn't remember, just he does things without actually following a qualified mujtahid. What is the situation for this person? Here, there are different opinions, but the maybe opinion which is very straightforward and very rational is that if this person has been able to do these actions with proper niyyah, with qasd al-qurba. Okay? It's not that he couldn't do qasd al-qurba. If he has done it with the niyyah of qurba ila Allah ta'ala, getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then if his actions have luckily corresponded to the rulings of Allah in reality, which we don't know, on the day of judgment we will know. You could say your salat in, for example, three ways. You did it in one way. If this one way, in this one option, luckily is the one that in ilmullah, in the knowledge of Allah, in reality is what he wanted, okay, you are lucky, you have done it. Or if it complies with the fatwa of the person that you have to follow, then again you are saved. But if you missed anything, then you are held responsible. You have not performed your duty. That action is not valid. So you see how dangerous it is. How can I be sure that this is what Allah wants from me? If I follow a marja who is qualified, it's a great support for me, a great backup, a great hujjah I have. I can say I follow this qualified person. But then how can I take a risk and say, inshallah, what I do, is correct? فَمَنْ لَمْ يَكُنْ مُجْتَهِدًا وَلَا مُحْتَاطًا. The one who has not been mujtahid himself or herself and has not acted according to precaution. So مَنْ لَمْ يُقَلِّدِ الْمُجْتَهِدَ الْجَامِعَ لِلشَّرَائِعِ, and has not followed the mujtahid who is qualified from every aspect. فَجَمِيعُ عِبَادَاتِهِ بَاطِلَةٌ. All his acts of worship are invalid. لَا تُقْبَلُ مِنْ, they are not accepted from him. وَإِنْ صَلَّى وَصَامَ وَتَعَبَّدَ طُولَ عُمْرِهِ, even if he has been praying and fasting and worshipping all his or her life. إِلَّا, unless يَدْعَلُهُ رَأْيَ مَنْ يُقَلِّدُهُ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ, unless his action has complied with the person that he is going to follow. He goes to marja, he says, Agha, I have not been doing taqlid, for example, or he doesn't say anything. From this point on, acts according to the fatwa of marja, and then in the past, those things that are luckily in compliance with his fatwa are accepted. Of course, Sheikh Muzaffar doesn't mention correspondence to the knowledge of Allah, means something that you find in the fatwa of many marja, because in dunya we don't have any way to establish that. In dunya, the only way to establish that you are alright is to ask the marja who is qualified. But as I said, if this person doesn't do any taqlid and dies in that condition, then on the day of judgment, if something was luckily correct, that may be accepted. Or some people say, if something luckily corresponded to the fatwa of the person that he was supposed to do taqlid of him, again, that might be accepted. But as you know, it's very unlikely that all your actions correspond to what is in the knowledge of Allah, the case, or what a marja who is qualified has prescribed. How can someone, for example, doesn't know the fatwa of, say for example, Mirza Naini, and lives in the time of Mirza Naini, or lives in the time of, Akhund Sahib Kefaye, or, Akhund Sahib al-Urwe, and then without knowing their fatwa, without referring to them, all his actions correspond to their fatwas. It's not possible. Maybe 10%, 20%, 30% maximum. So the actions would not be accepted unless they have corresponded, luckily, to the opinion of the marja that he's going to follow later, and it has happened that he managed to bring actions with the niyyah of qurba. Not because if he was, a stubborn person that didn't bother about religion, so maybe even he couldn't make niyyah of qurba, maybe it was just to show off, or, keep others silent. But there are people that do it really with the niyyah of qurba, we know that, but they are not very careful. So now that you say prayer, you fast, please go and learn. Alhamdulillah, many people, they follow, they have marja. But it happens sometimes people come and ask questions, and when I ask, for example, who is your marja? They don't have answer. So now that you are doing your wajibat, spend some time, inquire who is or who are the most qualified, if there is no one a'lam, and people are equal, and then follow. It's not difficult. It looks difficult, but you can learn in a few hours the issues which are applicable to you. So now let's go to ijtihad. عقيدتنا في الاجتهاد. نعتقد أن الاجتهاد في الأحكام الفرعية واجب بالوجوب الكفائي على جميع المسلمين في عصور غيبة الإمام. We Shia believe that in the time of occultation, in the time of ghaiba of Imam Mahdi Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, we need among us to have some people who undertake the pain of dedicating their life to studying and becoming mujtahid. Among us there must be people who can fill this gap. As the Quran also says, ما كان المؤمنون لينفروا كافة فلولا نفر من كل فرقة منهم طائفة ليتفقهوا في الدين. It's not that everyone can go and join houses and become a mujtahid, but why from every community, every country, every nation, every city, why not some people go and learn and then they come and teach people? Of course, it is about all aspects of Islam. Teach them aqaid, teach them akhlaq, but also we need some people who specialize in fiqh and become mujtahid and guide us with respect to our practical issues. So this is wajib al-kifai, means that we are all responsible, but if enough people, adequate number of people, go for it and take care of it, we are then exempted. Like if someone dies, we are all responsible for burying him properly, to do the post, to put him in the kafan, shurut, to, I don't know, do salatul mayyit, to bury him. Everything is responsibility of all of us. If we don't do it, we have all committed sin. But if one person, few people do it, then they have done it on behalf of all of us, and we are all then exempted. بمعنى, so he explains, أنه يجب على كل مسلم في كل عصر. Every Muslim in every era must become mujtahid, but not as wajib aini. It's not that every person must do it, and no matter others do or not. ولكن, this is كفاية. إذا نهض به من به الغنى والكفاية سقط عن باقي المسلمين. If people who are sufficient and adequate, go for it, undertake it, then this wujub is dropped. Other Muslims, they don't need to become mujtahid. ويكتفون بمن تصدى لتحصيله وحصل على رتبة الاجتهاد وهو جامع للشرائط. Then they can say, okay, it is sufficient for us that we have people who have undertaken this task, they have reached the level of ijtihad, they have all the qualities, because it's not just to be mujtahid. There must be mujtahid who is also adil. So they have all the shara'id, all the shurut, all the conditions, فَيُقَلِّدُونَهُ وَيَرْجِعُونَ إِلَيْهِ فِي فُرُوعِ دِينِهِمْ. And in their practical rulings, they refer to him. فَفِي كُلِّ عَصْرٍ يَجِبُ أَنْ يَنْظُرَ الْمُسْلِمُونَ إِلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ. In every generation, every age, Muslims should check their own situation. They should go back to themselves. فَإِنْ وَجَدُوا مَنْ بَيْنَهُمْ من تبرع بنفسه وحصل على رتبة الاجتهاد التي لا ينالها إلا ذو حظ عظيم وكان جامعا للشرائط التي تؤهله للتقليد اكتفوا به وقلدوه ورجعوا إليه في معرفة أحكام دينه. So, Muslim community should investigate their condition. If they find that there are people who are volunteers, they said, we love to go to Hawza, and they have studied, they have reached the level of ijtihad, but he says, don't think this is easy. لا ينالها إلا ذو حظ عظيم. No one would reach the level of ijtihad unless he has a great, success and great tawfiq and has benefited a lot. So if they find there are people who have volunteered and became mujtahid, and they have all the conditions that qualify them for taqlid, اكتفوا به. They say, okay, this is enough for us. We don't need to worry. وَقَلَّدُوا. And they follow him and refer to him for knowing the rulings. But وَإِن لَمْ يَجِدُوا مَنْ لَهُ هَذِهِ الْمَنْزِلَةِ. But if God forbids a time comes that we don't have a qualified mujtahid who can be our marja, وَجَبَ عَلَيْهِمْ أَنْ يَحْصُلَ كُلَّ وَاحِدٍ or يُحَصِّلَ كُلَّ وَاحِدٍ رُتْبَةَ الْإِجْتِهَادِ. Every person must reach the level of ijtihad or must secure ijtihad. Or they must prepare some people among themselves that say, okay, please, you go and become mujtahid. We will help you, we will support you, we will take care of, your family, your cause. You go and you become mujtahid. Otherwise, we are all in trouble. Like, for example, if we need doctors, what should we do? If we need teachers, what should we do? Of course, maybe you say, we employ doctors from other communities. But can we employ marja from other communities? Can we employ fuqaha from other schools? We cannot. أو يهيئ من بينهم من يتفرغ لنيل هذا. Or they choose among them and prepare some among them that can tafarragh, means dedicate his time to reach the level of ijtihad. Why? Because they cannot all become مجتهد حيث يتعذر عليهم جميعا السعي لهذا الأمر أو يتعسر. It's either impossible or very difficult for all of them to become مجتهد. ولا يجوز لهم أن يقلدوا من مات من المجتهدين. Don't say, okay, we don't have marja right now, we go to previous marja who have passed away. No, this is not acceptable. Yes, if you have been following a person, that person has passed away, according to many ulama, you can remain with them. And even here you have to check with the marja who are living. So you go to the most qualified living marja and he gives you permission to remain with the marja that you have been following. But to begin with, al-ibtida' bil-taqlid bil-mayyit, to begin with, it's not possible. So I cannot go and follow Sheikh Ansari, say, oh, Sheikh Ansari is a great alim. I cannot go and follow Sahib Kifaya. So we need to have marja of our own time. So, what is ijtihad? It's very simple. ijtihad is النظر في الأدلة الشرعية لتحصيل معرفة الأحكام الفرعية التي جاء بها سيد المرسلين صلى الله عليه وسلم. Ijtihad means to investigate, examine the sources that we have, which we will explain, al-kitab, wal-sunnah, wal-ijma, wal-aql. Someone who is a scholar, who has reached the level of ijtihad, goes to our sources and tries to infer, tries to understand the rulings of the Sharia of the Prophet. And the rulings of Islam لا تتبدل ولا تتغير بتغير الزمان والمكان. Rulings of Islam don't change. حلال محمد حلال إلى يوم القيامة وحرامه حرام إلى يوم القيامة. The rulings don't change. Of course, the subjects can change and then the rulings would change, but it's not the change in ruling. For example, maybe something at a certain time was useless, then buying and selling of that was haram, because we cannot buy and sell something which has no benefit. Suppose blood, for example. Maybe in the past blood was useless. Drinking and eating it are haram, and there was no other permissible usage. So selling, buying blood was haram. But now they can make lots of good use of blood for medical reasons. So maybe now Mujtahid says, now selling and buying blood is okay because there is manfa'at halal al-mu'tad bih, means there are enough permissible benefits, there is considerable benefit, this is halal, so it's possible to sell and buy. I'm just giving an example, you should refer to your marja, but I'm saying this is not a change of the ruling of Islam. Ruling is the same. لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل. We cannot give or take money for something which is useless. But if something used to be useless and now is useful, the subject has changed. Something was an act of gambling, like playing chess. Maybe if it becomes just a way of a sport, a type of a sport, maybe a marja says, now it's okay. Of course, some say that playing chess by itself might be haram. Some say no, it was haram because it was a way of gambling. Then when it's no longer gambling, then the ruling can change. So these are changes in the subjects. Otherwise, rulings by themselves don't change. والأدلة الشرعية هي الكتاب الكريم والسنة والإجماع والعقل. Those religious references that we have for ahkam are Quran, Sunnah, including saying and actions, and taqrir, tacit approval of the Prophet or Imams, and intellect, reason, and ijma. For the school of Ahlul Bayt, aql is a source. And for us, ijma, consensus, of course, is only valid if it can help us to understand the opinion of ma'soom. If non-ma'sooms agree, this is not by itself hujjah. But there are methods that with those methods from consensus, we can understand that ma'soom was involved. For example, if all ulama in the time of Imam alayhi salam gave the same fatwa, or all Muslims behaved in the same way, and Imam didn't object, so that can be a way to establish that this ijma is valid. Of course, there are lots of details here. على التفصيل المذكور في كتب أصول الفقه. There are details which are mentioned in the books of jurisprudence, principles of jurisprudence. Last sentence. وتحصيل رتبة الاجتهاد يحتاج إلى كثير من المعارف والعلوم التي لا تتهيأ إلا لمن جد واجتهد وفرغ نفسه وبذل وسعه لتحصيلها. To reach the level of ijtihad needs many sciences. صرف، نحو، بلاغه، منطق، فقه، اصول الفقه، قواعد الفقهية، علم الرجال، علم الدراية. And this would not be possible unless for someone who has جد واجتهد, who has been serious, has worked hard, and فرغ نفسه, and dedicated his time to this. You cannot spend, part-time and become mujtahid. Yes, it's good to study part-time, to learn. Even you can become maybe a good speaker, maybe you can become a good teacher, maybe even you can become a scholar if you continue. But to be mujtahid is different. Even there are many people who have dedicated their whole life to study. There are people who have been going to even Dars Kharaj for 20 years, but they are not mujtahid yet. وَبَذَلَ وُسْعَهُ لِتَحْصِيلًا, gives all his talents and energy and abilities for acquiring ijtihad.